And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. A little different than the usual podcast. Obviously, first of all, it's early in the week, and second of all, this isn't really a news podcast, as you can tell from the title by clicking the video to listen to the podcast. This is what I like to call the new, even though I have done review podcasts before, this is the new Movie Pit Podcast Review Podcasts. That's a very lengthy title. I'm going to change that. But I'm going to start doing, if you listened to the podcast last week, you may have heard at the end of the podcast that I was going to start doing reviews for the movies that are coming out. So here is the first one. Obviously, I'm going to be reviewing Snatched and King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Just how things is going to work with this. So I'm going to be reviewing the movies. They are going to be spoiler-filled reviews. So if you want a non-spoiler review, for whatever reason, if you're listening to this, if you want a non-spoiler review, there is a link down below in the description/show notes area. It is a link to the non-spoiler reviews for these movies. They're in a mini review fashion, so I don't get too into it, but they are there. They are non-spoilers. This and all the other podcasts later on that we do reviews on are going to be spoiler-filled. So just wanted to put that out there so no one gets angry and be like, you spoiled it. No, full-on spoilers. Alright, so let's get right to it. First movie we're going to be reviewing is Snatched.
Hey, do you mind if I join you?
Hey, that dude is talking to you.
Sorry. You.
Not you. It was me. Can you kind of beat it? Because you're a distraction. Hey!
What brings you down here? You on vacation here with your boyfriend?
No, I'm just here with, my mom.
Why are you dressed like powder?
The sun is very dangerous.
Mom, it feels like you're putting on a lot.
No, just here when you need it here.
Let's go out tonight.
Hair, makeup, boobs, we're going out.
Emily, I am not going out at night.
Everything shouldn't be so scary.
Oh, it damn well should. 1 in 4 tourists are kidnapped.
Not true.
1, 2, 3, somebody's missing.
I met a man.
Well, drinking with a man in a foreign country, it's a smart, responsible thing to do.
We need an amazing adventure.
Where the hell are we?
The scenic route.
What's your PIN number?
Everything he says.
I already am before you told me to.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, God.
I was gonna change it. I will get us out of here. I need you to believe in me. Mom, come on! Do you think maybe that guy's okay?
I saw his brains.
Why can't you just make me feel better?
Listen, I need your help. Mom and I got kidnapped.
State Department.
My mom and sister, they've been taken. I imagine you have a commando squad. 4 underground criminals who were tried for a crime they didn't commit.
Sounds like the A-team.
It is the A-team. Do you have an A-team?
Why did I ever let you talk me into this?
I should have just listened to you. I love you.
This is great, but we really gotta get out of here, you know?
Yeah, we should get out of here. Okay. We have to fight, Mom.
We've got this.
Mom, that was awesome.
You messed with the wrong bitches.
Yeah.
Go. I'm gonna count down. I'm gonna do it.
Please.
199.
Directed by Jonathan Levine, he directed movies like All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, 50-50, Warm Bodies, and the last film he directed was The Night Before. Written by Katie Diplow, who wrote a lot of episodes of Mad TV and Parks and Recreation. She wrote The Heat, and she wrote Ghostbusters last year. The cast, of course, stars Amy Schumer, Goldie Hawn, Ike Barinholtz, Wanda Sykes, Joan Cusack, Tom Bateman, and Christopher Maloney, amongst others, of course. Very brief synopsis of what the film is about. This is just taken directly from IMDb. When her boyfriend dumps her before her exotic vacation, a young woman persuades her ultra cautious mother to travel with her to paradise with unexpected results. So I talked about this on the podcast last week. We talked about it on the summer movie season preview podcast, which you haven't listened to that, by the way, I highly recommend you do. We talked about by week because there was more than one of us on the summer movie preview season podcast. But last week I also mentioned that I'm not the biggest Amy Schumer fan, and I thought Trainwreck was okay. I thought this movie looked okay. There'll probably be like a few good jokes in the film. Hopefully, that was my early hope for the movie. But I ended up watching this, and I ended up kind of enjoying it more than I thought I would. It's not great. It's not a great movie overall, but I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. And it wasn't because, it wasn't even because of Amy Schumer. I think the best part of Snatched and what really makes it work is the supporting cast. The supporting cast, Ike Barinholtz, who plays her brother in the movie, who is a agoraphobic, who doesn't like going outside, and his chemistry with we see him in the trailers, the State Department official that's in the trailers, played Basir. I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Basir Shalahandi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But their chemistry in the film is fantastic. All the scenes they were in were hilarious. Every time they were on screen together are just amazing and fantastic. And the character, even though in the trailers is kind of like, it feels like he's just like a one-off character, he isn't. He's in the film a lot longer than I thought he would be, and their chemistry together is fantastic. It was funny to me that Ike Barinholtz, who's trying to be like this very tough kind of guy, he goes on the guy's Facebook and says his wife, and the was just like, what did you say? And no, you saw my wife's name. I'm gonna go down there and I'll beat your ass personally. I thought that was hilarious. I thought both of them were very, 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 very good and very great. And since we're speaking about the supporting cast, Christopher Meloni. Christopher Meloni is even though this is a spoiler-filled review, I am still not gonna say too much about Christopher Meloni's character, because he is one of these characters that you just have to witness to believe it, because it is utterly ridiculous how his character is played out in the film. And he has a small role. He doesn't have a very big role, but just the way his character, just the way he plays it, and just the way how serious they took that role, and play that character, it was so, I don't even know how to I don't even know how to describe it without even spoiling it. But he is a very welcomed addition when he's introduced into the film, into the movie. But of course the big thing in the movie is the relationship between Amy Schumer's character named Emily and her mother character played by Goldie Hawn, named Linda. And one of the things I will applaud the movie for is just how real a lot of the things feel. Because a lot of the fights they kind of have, a lot of disagreements they have, are probably fights that you've had with your mother or any kind of sibling. But of course, this is a mother-daughter movie, so I can only imagine that those fights and those arguments and everything they kind of say to each other is real. And it's not just a mother thing. I'm pretty sure men who are close to their mothers as well, as they probably go through that as well. But a lot of the stuff that's said in the movie between the two, it feels real. And it's something that anyone who's in that kind of position will connect to. And that's one of the things that I applaud the movie for, because it does feel real. Now, the moments between them are very scattered throughout. The way that Emily convinces her mother to go on a trip with her is that she finds this old photo book. And it's all these old photos of her mother, and how she went on so many adventures when she was younger. And Emily's kind of way of convincing her to come with her on a trip is saying, look at what your life was, and look at how it was, and look how it is now. So that kind of finally kind of convinces Linda, sort of. We don't necessarily get to see like how she finally actually convinced her, because even before they cut away to them in Ecuador, which is where they end up going, she's still not very convinced. Linda, the mother character, Goldie Hawn. So I don't know. I mean, that part. Some of the movie, and that's not just that part. Some of the rest of the movie seems very like it's like they edited too much out. Like it goes from one thing to right to the next thing, and there's not too many of those moments, but there's enough of those moments like that where it's like I wanted to see that in between kind of thing that was going on. So there was that. When it comes, this is a comedy, so comedy is very subjective, and it's one of the movies that I hate always reviewing because some people have different styles. They like different styles of comedy. Some people like the more slapstick comedy. Some people like the kind of more dark humor comedy. Some people like the overly ridiculous raunchy kind of comedy. And Snatched does fall. There are some very raunchy jokes in this movie, and some of them work for the scene that they're in, and some of them are just just no. So like I mentioned, this is a movie that is built around Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn, but they're not even the best characters in the movie. I think the best characters in the movie are Ike Barinholtz's character, Jeffrey, and the State Department official Morgan Russell. That's the name of the character. I think they're the best character, and Christopher Maloney. I think those are the best characters in the movie, and those are all supporting characters. And I don't necessarily think that's saying something. I think that it's just, and it's not even just me like not being a fan of Amy Schumer, because I'm a fan of Goldie Hawn, but just I don't know, just like Amy Schumer's character, especially in the beginning, I will admit I found her very unlikable. Her character in a lot of ways is almost, at least in the beginning of the movie, is very unlikable, and it kind of carries a little bit over to throughout the rest of the movie, and then her character just kind of takes like a weird like 180 turn, because they obviously if you've seen the movie, it's a spoiler for the review, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They end up Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn, the characters, end up in a village, in this little village in the forest in the Amazon, and it's there where they kind of see everything in a different light. They kind of see a different part of this country, and it's at this point in the movie it's already been said multiple times. Amy Schumer's character she's directionless. She doesn't have a direction in life. She at the beginning of the movie, she gets fired from her job, which was a nice fake out. The beginning of the movie starts with a fake out of Amy Schumer's character. You think that she's planning, she's talking to this worker, and it turns out that she is the worker and she's not doing her job very well. But she gets fired from her job. Literally the next scene is her getting dumped by her boyfriend, played by Randall Park in the movie, in a very, very small role. It's a very small role. It's pretty much like a cameo from Randall Park, and because he's in a band and he's about to go on tour, and he's like, the reason why I'm breaking up with you is because I'm going on this band, and there's going to be all these other girls that I can sleep with. So that was actually kind of funny too. But then she ends up going to her mother's house, and we see just how overly cautious her mother is. She's looking up like sex offenders in the area, and the first call that she gets between the first call that we get between the two characters, it's her saying to Emily, "Be careful because there was a robbery in Delaware. I know you live in New York, but you never be too careful." And of course she has cats, and again her grown son Jeffrey, played by Ike Barinholtz, lives in the house. So it's kind of funny. But the movie, there's some good in the movie. There's a lot of laughs. There are some moments that you're either really gonna love or you're really gonna hate. One of those is definitely the scene that takes place in the village that I was talking about earlier. I'm not gonna say what it is, just in case you guys want to see it for yourself. But that one was more like the most ridiculous. That was one of the over-the-top, raunchy, ridiculous moments in the movie that it worked. It worked at the point of when you were watching. It works when you're watching the movie. When you step back and you start, going over the movie in your head, it's just in there for the sake of a gag. That's all. It's all it is. And it's there for the sake of the gag in the movie as well. But when you're watching it, you're kind of already immersed in the scene, and it's a build up to what's been going on before. So I don't know. It's I don't know. Look, at the moment it worked. When I was watching the movie for the first time, it worked. Looking back at it, it's like, yeah, they didn't need to. It's just they just wanted a gross out moment. That's all they wanted. All in all, Snatched. Again, it works when it works when it's I don't want to say it works when it goes over the top, because some of the over the top moments are just that, they're just over the top. But there are a lot of moments that I really loved. There are a lot of moments that I was generally laughing out loud. And is it weird to say that those moments don't happen to be around Amy Schumer's character? Probably, even though she is the main build for one of the main build actors for this movie. So I'm trying to say, yeah, supporting cast is great. Ike Barinholtz's character, he even just the way he says "mama" or "mama." Just every time he said it, everyone was laughing. Everyone in my theater, every time, anytime he showed up, it just brought a giggle to everyone, and everyone was like, "Oh!" So that was pretty cool. I kind of enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed his character. So, but yeah, the whole movie. I mean, the movie itself, it's funny when it does go a little over the top, but at the same time, even that's more, relaxed, kind of quippy moments also work. The mother-daughter aspect, which is kind of the real main aspect of the film, it works to some extent. Some of the moments between Emily and Linda are so spread out that it doesn't really doesn't kind of almost always work. So I don't know. I mean, it could work. It's these moments where they're just kind of just where they're just having like this big argument, and then the moment I'm highlighting in my head is the moment where they're lost in the Amazon, and it's the moment where Amy Schumer just kind of just rags on her mom, and then it's at that point where Goldie Hawn just like she's had enough of it, and she just rails on her own daughter and everything, and it's a moment that works. It's a moment that you kind of like that it happened, because it's finally someone telling her what's going on, and again, it's a moment that feels real, and that's why I enjoyed the moments between her and Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn when they're together. In those moments, the more kind of comedic stuff, it works and it doesn't work, but it's these like smaller moments where they're together, and it's really only that scene, because all the other scenes are very kind of comedy based. You get these smaller moments in that, but that is the one big moment between them that actually kind of almost saved that arc, which is weird, because it's the main arc of the movie, but you don't really focus on it. They don't really focus on it too much, but there was just something about the movie where it's like, okay, yeah, we know they're mother and daughter, and we know that Goldie Hawn's always her character is always telling Amy Schumer's character all these things, but it's until that moment where where Goldie Hawn tells Amy Schumer's character everything that's she's kind of wanting to tell, and everything that we the audience are thinking about. It's just it's at that moment where it's like, okay, this is the movie. This is the moment where this movie becomes what it was supposed to be between these two characters. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah, I mean that's what. So if I had to give Snatched a rating, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I would. I think, like I said, it's not perfect. The comedy isn't going to be for everyone. There are some great moments in there. The supporting characters are great, and yeah. So Snatched, 3 out of 5 for me. All right. So that being said, let's move on to King Arthur: Legend of the Sword.
Listen to me. I need you to do as I tell you. I need to get you and the boy away from here. Protect the king!
Did you see everything you needed to see?
I saw enough.
Why is the water dropped? Why does the sword reveal itself now?
As your power increases, so do the forces that will oppose you. The born king will come. It is inevitable.
He felt it. The power. I've never had any power or any desire to achieve it. That's what all the fuss is about.
Don't worry. You'll soon understand what all the fuss is about.
Are you scared?
I think I can manage.
You should be scared.
Whatever it takes to hunt him down.
If I go down, you follow him. If he goes down, you follow me.
You want him to think big? Give him something big to think about.
You wanted the prophecy. This is your prophecy. The man who pulled sword from stone. Behold, your born king.
Directed by Guy Ritchie, who also co-wrote the film with Lionel Wingram and Joby Harold. It stars Charlie Hunnam, Jamun Hansu, Jude Law, Astrid Burgess Frisbee, I think that's how you say her last name, Aidan Gillen, and Eric Bana, of course, amongst others. The brief synopsis, again, just being pulled from IMDb. Robbed of his birthright, Arthur comes up the hard way in the back alleys of the city, but once he pulls his sword from the stone, he is forced to acknowledge his true legacy, whether he likes it or not. So this is a movie that I had been looking forward to when I saw the first couple trailers, and it was one of those movies where I was like, you know what, maybe this could be good, maybe it won't, but I am a fan of Guy Ritchie, so I was all on board for this. So finally watching it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, this isn't that bad. So the movie starts off with a pretty lengthy opening credits scene, and I didn't even mind it until I just started seeing like the credits appear on the screen. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But it's a pretty lengthy opening credits scene. It doesn't even follow Arthur. It follows his father, Uthor, played by, I think I pronounced that wrong, played by Eric Bana, and he's facing off against this powerful mage. Because in the movie, right as the movie starts, we see this title card that says that humans and mages are there was a balance between the two, and the balance is a little uneasy at the moment. So the movie opens up with this powerful mage, and I forgot the name already of the character, but it doesn't really play that big of a role because he apparently gets beheaded by King Arthur's character. But it starts off with this big attack, and the scene also gives us a little bit of a tease of the power of the sword, which they do name Excalibur, although they're not mentioning it like every now and then. It's just the sword. But we get to see a little bit of that. We also get introduced to some of the characters later on in the film, but I'll get to those in a minute. But of course, the big one is Uthor's brother Vortigern, played by Jude Law. And after Uthor defeats the mage, and it looks like they're going back to a peaceful reign of the kingdom, Vortigern plans a coup, and he starts killing a lot of Arthur's people, and then something that we've seen in the trailers and TV spots. Eric Bana, and not Eric Bana, Uthor, played by Eric Bana, his character takes young Arthur with his mother, and they try to escape, but something ends up attacking them, and later we find out that it is Vortigern after he makes this deal with some creature that lives underneath the castle. I assume that's a pretty dangerous place to leave that thing. I don't know how Uthor didn't actually know about that, or maybe he didn't, or that's, I don't know. That part I didn't get, but he makes this deal with this creature, and he becomes like this big overpowered monster, and he kills Arthur's parents, but Arthur's of course already escaped at this point. And then of course we jump forward in time when we find the now grown up Arthur, played by Charlie Hunnam, who grew up in a brothel, and we see like this very Guy Ritchie-esque montage of him growing up in the brothel, and him learning all these things, learning how to fight, learning how to pick a fight in some cases too, and we get to see him as he grows up, and he's hiding money and coins and everything, and we see him as finally as an adult with his two friends, which have very weird names: Wet Stick, played by Kingsley Ben Adair, and Backlack, played by Neil Maskill. And they have a good thing going on. It looks like first they protect the girls in the brothel, which obviously Arthur would probably. It seems very natural that he would do that, because he's the only kind of man around that doesn't want to sleep with any of them. And they kind of go around the city, and they're kind of being like protectors and letting things kind of they're kind of almost like hustlers in a sense, which is very Guy Ritchie-esque as well. He's known for having these street hustler kind of characters. But that goes on for a while, and then we cut back to the palace, which is now a little darker than it was before, and we see Vortigern as of course king, and we see the seas or the river around the castle subside, and it reveals the sword, and Vortigern wants to find out why the sword is being revealed, and he goes to the bowels of the castle, and finds out that because his power is getting stronger, which I'll get to that in a minute, there's always going to be something to defend against evil magic, which is true. So of course, as we see from the trailers, eventually Arthur goes to the palace, he pulls the sword out, and he becomes instantly, right at that moment, becomes a target to everyone, kind of a legend to everyone else, but he gets saved by some of the people that were introduced at the beginning of the series. He gets saved by Belvedere, played by Jammu Hansu, Goose Fat Bill, I'm not kidding, Goose Fat Bill, played by Game of Thrones Aidan Gillen, aka Littlefinger, who we do see earlier in the film, but we don't know really who he is until later on at this point when they all get introduced. And the Mage, that's the only name that we know her from, the Mage, which is played by Astrid Burgess Frisbee. And the rest of the film is Arthur learning how to use the sword, because the sword is this magical sword. It has its own way of working, and Arthur, every time he touches it with two hands, not one hand, you can touch it with one hand all you want. It's when you grab it with two hands, it takes him back to when his parents were murdered, and it's actually a nightmare that we see him have throughout the film as well. But it's at this point where when he grabs it with two hands, we see him jump back to that moment, and we see him having those memories. And every time he does it, we get to see a little bit more and more and more of what happened to him, what happened to his parents, I should say, that day. So, the Mage is trying to tell him, you have to accept the sword and accept the responsibility of what the sword means, and what that sword can do for you and can do for everyone else. But of course, Arthur's not having any of it, and what follows is him trying to learn it and become the legend of course, King Arthur. So the film has a lot of things working for it. It does. Again, the Guy Ritchie style is very welcomed. It kind of goes away as the film goes on. The first half of the movie, the first act of the movie, is all Guy Ritchie. That is Guy Ritchie at his finest. That's Guy Ritchie being Guy Ritchie. When he's telling his story about what happened to with him and his friends with a bunch of Vikings, because there's Vikings in the movie. Just letting you know. But when he's telling that story, it's very Guy Ritchie-esque, and it's one of the most humorous moments in the whole movie. And I love that. I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite, if not the favorite scene in the movie for me personally, was that. And I just thought that was an awesome scene. It's totally Guy Ritchie, and it's just awesome. But you know, when there's good stuff, there's bad stuff. Some of the movie is very. It just feels very jumbled at times. It feels very jumbled at times. It feels like it doesn't know where it's going sometimes, and that's always going to be a problem for your movie. But when it gets into the mystical, magical side of things, it's when it starts. That's kind of when it starts losing itself a little bit. And one of the things that I mentioned briefly a little bit ago was Vortigern's powers. Now, Vortigern has a scene in pretty much in the middle of the movie where he goes to this slab, which kind of acts as a magical beacon. It kind of gives. That's kind of where I think, if I remember correctly, that's where Merlin, who's mentioned by name, Merlin, although we don't see his face, where he makes the sword, where he makes Excalibur, and it's just at the slab of magical rock that we see him in around the middle of the movie, and he touches it, and he starts to get some powers, where it powers him up a little bit. And the reason why I say that with a question mark is because we don't know what the hell's going on in that scene, because it's never brought up again. You know, I'm pretty sure it's in the trailers. We see him, creating this fireball in his hand and whirling it around. That's it. That's the extent that we see of his powers. That's it. He's supposed to be, from what I remember, he has his own magical powers in the movie, but we never see them. Just at that moment, he makes a candle light up, kind of previously in the movie before that moment, before the fireball in the hand moment, and that's it. And the only other time we see him using magic is at the very end, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But that's it. So his powers and the whole magical side of things don't really add up, and I feel like Guy Ritchie wanted to tell like the street level, grounded kind of King Arthur story, and he was like, "Oh, we'll throw some magic in there, because obviously, King Arthur has, magic in his stories, depending on who you ask." And it felt like he was like, "Okay, I'll add magic," and then he was just trying to figure out how to put the magic in the movie, and it just stumbles a little bit. There's moments with. There's moments with the mage, especially at the end. She makes this giant snake, and it's like, okay, cool. It's a giant snake. It's just gonna eat Vortigern. That's it. End of the movie. Or Vortigern's gonna kill that snake too. Nope. Because Vortigern, as soon as that snake comes in, there's even a shot of the snake looking at Vortigern, but then it cuts away somehow to a snake attacking someone else, and Vortigern just is mysteriously gone. And it's like, what the hell's going on? So a lot of the mystical stuff just doesn't. I mean, that's just a poor choice. But a lot of the other mystical stuff, it just doesn't really work too well in the film. And that's just me. And when it comes to Vortigern himself, the character Jude Law, he feels a little flat. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, the opening credits of the movie, he's very conflicted about some stuff, and he's very conflicted about his brother going out and attacking the mage, this powerful mage, not the mage, who is the woman character that we follow throughout the movie. This other mage, I just can't remember his name, but he's very conflicted, and you can feel that he every time there's magical powers used around him, he gets like these headaches, but we never learn why he gets those headaches. And then after that opening credits scene, even though he's very conflicted, and even though it probably feels like he loves his brother, he just goes into like this weird, like, one-note dimensional villain who the movie tries to be like, oh, I'm just gonna kill random people for the hell of it because I'm evil. That's what it feels like sometimes. Like, oh, I'm evil. I need to show you how evil I am by killing someone. And it kind of works, but at the same time, it's like they could have done something else to make his character just, more evil and more powerful than what they ended up showing in the movie. Obviously I talked about the villain. Now I got to talk about the hero, Charlie Hunnam. I think he does a pretty good job. He does a pretty good job of being an Arthur. Obviously, this is a different Arthur. I'm saying Arthur because he's not King Arthur. He doesn't become king until the very end of the movie. But this is a different Arthur that we've seen before, and I think seeing him as this kind of street hustler, as this street level kind of character, I think that was probably the best Arthur that they could have done. I mean, obviously when and when they take him away from the city, when they're trying to train him to use the sword, it works. For me, it works to some extent. The extent that I don't like is that especially right after the scene when he goes into I forgot was it the Badlands or the Darklands. There's a moment where he, obviously you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. For those who just listen to this podcast because they don't care about spoilers, there's a moment when he goes into this different dimension to, I believe, so he can actually finally get past fighting the sword, so he can finally accept using the sword and not let the sword control him. He goes into it, and that part I actually did like. That part, when he goes in, that's kind of like the mystical side of stuff, the magical side, the fantasy stuff. That I actually liked, because it was him going up against the elements and becoming, this good, like, King Arthur. Not King Arthur, but becoming it more closer to the King Arthur character that we know. I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But after he gets out of there and after he finally is able to use a sword, it's just like he was fighting this urge. He was fighting this thing. He was like, well, I'm not the man you want me to be. I'm not this kind of person. Which I think anyone would react that way. It's like, you gotta go, kill your uncle who you didn't know you had like half hour ago in the movie time anyway. Probably like days within the actual film. But it's like, oh no, you gotta go kill him with their sword that's connected to you somehow, which you do find out it was connected to him because his father was the one that used the sword, and he cuts Arthur's hand within the film. I'm pretty sure just guaranteeing the fact that he's now at that point he's the only one that can use the sword. That's kind of what I got from it, because you can only use the sword because there's a point in the movie where Vortigern tells Arthur, it's like, oh, you're the only one that can use the sword and this true power because you're of the blood of Uthor. But for whatever reason, like, they kept going back to him getting cut in the hand. So I think that was just their way of being like, no, this is the real reason why he can only use a sword, because I don't know, his blood was on the sword. That part was a little confusing too. But yeah, I mean his Charlie Hunnam, just the way that they kind of made it seem like, oh, he got out of it. Now he knows the sword because of a brief scene that he has with the Lady of the Lake. Like, after that, it's like, nope, I'm good. Let's go use the sword. Let's go do it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't like. That was another thing I didn't like character-wise. That's not another thing I didn't like about that. But him being King Arthur overall, I liked it. I thought he did a pretty good job. And his chemistry with the cast, especially Ben Adar's Wet Stick and Neil Mescal's Black, and a little kid in the movie called Blue. Yeah, I thought it worked really well. Astrid Burgess Frisbee's character, the mage, she plays her cards very close to the vest very early on, and her powers are on full display throughout the film. But I thought she was probably a little bit underused, at least in my mind, at least in my eye. Jammu Hansu and Aidan Gillen, anytime you have those two guys in your movie, that's just to boost up, the credibility of those scenes, and they do that tenfold over and over again. So they could have had a little bit more to do, but that's what That's kind of what happens in these movies. The third act of the movie, the third act of King Arthur, is it feels like a different movie overall. We see Arthur use a sword, and at this point, Arthur's used a sword maybe twice, if that, against other people. But him using the sword in the final act of the movie against Vortigern's guards and against Vortigern himself when he's this big, monster, it felt like a video game. It felt too much like a video game. It literally felt like there should be like a hit combo at the corner of the screen, because that's what it felt like. I didn't mind it, especially when he's fighting Vortigern's men, but it just, I don't know. I honestly, I wouldn't know how else they would go about it. I only bring that up because we see his father use a sword, and even though it was a tease, it didn't feel like that. Is it different for other people? Like, people who use the swords, is it different for everyone? I don't know. But it was cool to watch when he's fighting Vortigern's men, but when he gets to Vortigern himself, when Vortigern's all, beefed up and powered up, and it felt like a boss battle in a video game. It really did. It felt like a boss battle. And it even gets a little hard to follow because they're moving so fast, and the camera's literally going in circles around them. So it gets a little bit hard to follow. It feels like a boss battle at the end of a game. The effects of it are pretty cool, but it just feels like a complete boss battle. And every time he gets hit, I just feel, seriously, you could have put, I'm pretty sure someone will do this when the movie comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, and they get to use the scenes, they get to use the scenes online. Someone will put a hit counter and a health meter on top of that scene, because that's what it feels like. And to say like, oh, that's the only reason I don't like this movie. No, I liked it, by the way. I'm not saying that I didn't like it. But it's a little hard to, it feels really hard, out of place. That doesn't make any sense. It feels out of place because it was hard to follow, but also because everything that we've seen before, the first act in the movie, the second act in the movie, everything that we've seen before, even the action stuff, everything that we've seen before, it feels completely out of place. And it feels like it's a different movie. That's where it falls into summer movie season blockbuster. That's that final act, that final fight. That's where it falls into it. I didn't mind if they went that way, but it probably would have worked better if they didn't end up going that way. And the fact that they end up going that way is what lessened that scene for me. It really did. Like, there was a cool build-up. Like, they just show Charlie Hunnam, like, walking. Like, he's just, like, not a care in the world. And that was another thing that I was like, okay, he just doesn't care. Not a care in the world. And he has a scene, the sword, not the scene. He has a sword and he's just dragging on the floor. Just walking, like, all calmly, walking into a final battle. That was it. I don't know. When I was watching it, and even afterwards, I was like, okay, it's a boss battle. It's a boss battle. That's all it is. So, all in all, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword isn't all that bad. It isn't. There's a lot of great stuff in the film. It's a great concept. The fact that Guy Ritchie wanted to take Arthur and make him pretty much a street character, a street level character, that has to. But he's not necessarily. He was raised a street level character. He's not actually a street level character. He was a king. But taking that concept, the concept works for the most part. Doesn't completely work. It works for the most part. And although some things just don't really work, that final boss battle feel did not fit within the parameters of what they were trying to do, or what they did throughout the rest of the movie. It just didn't feel right. But I like Charlie Hunnam as Arthur. I thought they could have fleshed him out a little bit more. Speaking about fleshing out, I wish they had fleshed out Jude Law's character more. Even the fact that he kills his wife and his daughter so he can get powers. I get what they were trying to do. They're trying to make them this very conflicted character, but it doesn't come off the way it should have. Like, when he kills his wife, it's like, okay, well, he killed his wife, all right? That's hardcore. We're gonna go that way, all right. But when he kills his daughter, it's like, you're a scumbag. Like, I'm not gonna feel sorry for you. And he does it just for power, and he mentions it, early on, right before the failed execution of Arthur when he gets saved. Power is something along the lines of power is a very, what did he say? A very enticing thing, or something along those lines. or fear is very enticing. One of those two things. It's I don't know, it could have been fleshed out a little bit more. I love the Guy Ritchie moments, the montage when he's telling the scene, when he's telling the story about how he got to the Vikings, but he keeps cutting back to all these different little other stories. I thought it was great. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it for what it was. It's not a great movie, but it's a fair enough movie that I think you should give it a shot. It's a movie you should give a shot. And you're not going to like all of it, but you're going to like most of it. I like that Guy Ritchie-esque scene. I like the scene when they try to kill Vortigern, but Vortigern, of course, already knows that they're trying to kill him, so he's sitting on a decoy. And I love that. I love that scene when they're running around the city. I did, but yeah. Also, like you just heard, there's no mention of Lancelot or Guinevere or Gawain or any of the other King Arthur knights that we all know from the stories and stuff like that. So this is really, in a lot of ways, an origin story, a new origin story, and you can tell throughout the film. Like I mentioned, we hear Merlin, we briefly see him, but we don't see his face. And with that being said, it does sound like a lot like they were trying to start a new franchise. That's what it felt like in a lot of ways as well. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Obviously, the box office wasn't very too kind to King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. People already say that it is the first bomb of the summer. It did have a very high budget, so it'd be lucky if it makes its budget back in its initial box office run. Maybe it finds a new life overseas, or even at a home video and DVD and Blu-ray and stuff like that. But there's no mention of that. So again, like, this is a new origin story. It's its own little new street level kind of origin. So with that said, 3.5 out of 5 for King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. That's my personal take. That's my personal opinion. So I had a lot of fun with it. It's a great concept. Just the execution isn't all there. But there's a lot of great stuff in the movie. It's very fun. The action set pieces are pretty great, with the exception of the last video game boss level ordeal. But other than that, it's a pretty good fun time movie. So 3.5 for King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, and a 3 out of 5 for Snatched. Again, Snatched also, it's one of those movies that you're either really gonna like or you're really not gonna like. So I don't know if I would highly recommend that. I would somewhat recommend that if you're into the comedies and a little bit of the kind of raunchier, the kind of borders the line between raunchy and over the top. I would recommend that. I would recommend Snatched for you. All right, so that's my reviews for this week. Obviously, it's very jumbled. Forgive me for that. I didn't know how to approach it this time. I actually was going to do a video. This was going to be an audio only. I was going to do a video, an actual video where you could see my face, but I couldn't find my camera, so not gonna do that. So I just decided to do an audio. Next week I will try to do a video. Hopefully I'll find my camera. I know where my camera is. I just couldn't find it. You know where something is. You just don't know where it is. Yeah, that was my case for my camera. So yeah, these will get better. It feels a bit jumbled because it was my first one. I wasn't expecting to do too much for actually going on a lot longer than I thought it was gonna go on. But yeah, if you watched Snatched or King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, let me know what you thought down below in the comment section. Did you not watch it, and does this help you in any sort of way? I guess let me know that as well. I will be continuing these review podcasts, so this is only the first one. We have a lot of movies in the summer, guys. I'm going to be doing this for pretty much most of the summer, hopefully for the rest of the year as well. But let me know what you guys thought of this. Do you guys want more of these? I won't be reviewing every movie. Just want to put that out there. I'm not going to be reviewing every movie I watch because that would be overly ridiculous and very time consuming. So, but I will be reviewing a majority of the movies that I watch, I should say. Next week I will definitely be reviewing Alien Covenant. I'm really excited to watch that. So come back next week for that. Hopefully I'll be reviewing something else as well. So yeah, let me know again what you guys thought about all this. I will see you guys at the end of the week for the movie roundup, for the movie news roundup podcast, which we'll keep doing as well. And yeah, that's all I got. These podcasts will get better. These review podcasts will get better. Little jumbled because I got freaked out not knowing where my camera was. So forgive me for that. So yeah. All right. I'm done, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. The first podcast of the week now. That's going to be very weird to say. But yeah, thank you guys. I will see you guys later this week, hopefully. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!